So for a lot of my life, I ate whatever I wanted. And yes, that included ice cream for breakfast and lunch and dinner. I ate a lot of ice cream. I went to bed late. I hit the snooze button far too many times. I sat in front of the TV watching my favorite shows. No matter how early I needed to get up, no matter how long it went into the night, right? I pushed myself way beyond my capacity. I lived surrounded by clutter. I spent more money, like way more money than I should have. And honestly, I felt fine. I wasn't lying in bed unable to function. I wasn't in any obvious distress. My body was doing what bodies do. It was quietly compensating and quietly absorbing the weight of my choices. Quietly storing up a bill I didn't know I was running up. And now here's the thing. I wasn't completely oblivious. I knew that if I ate too much, I'd gain weight. And I knew that if I didn't move my body, I wouldn't be as fit. I knew if I spent too much money, that my bank account would reflect it. I knew those surface level consequences. But what I did not understand, and what nobody has ever taught me or us, right, was the depth of what those choices were doing, not to just to me physically, but to me mentally, emotionally, spiritually. The visible stuff was just the tip of the iceberg. Underneath the surface, something was slowly, quietly building. And then I turned 30. I know, seems like no big deal, right? But I turned 30 and my whole body fell apart. And I'm not exaggerating. When I say I went from feeling fine, mostly fine, to dealing with over 50 symptoms. 50, not 2 or 3, 50. My hormones were a mess. Cycles that literally made no sense. Moods that swung without warning. A body that felt like it belonged to somebody else. I was systemically inflamed, which meant that I tossed and turned all night with pain. And I didn't fully even understand that at the time. I couldn't explain it. I would go to the doctor and I'm like, I don't know. I don't sleep. I like toss and turn all night. And then I realized, oh, it's inflammation, right? So my thoughts raced at night, during the day, all the time. And all I wanted was just quiet and rest. And speaking of rest, that was not a thing. You would lay down and take a nap and that wouldn't happen. My husband's like, "Mate, you're so tired, just take a nap." I'm like, it doesn't work. I don't know what to say. It just became something I had no access to, right? And so I would lie down exhausted. My body would simply not settle down. And there was this restlessness? I don't know. It's just this restlessness inside. It was like something inside me was always bracing for impact. But here's the thing. I didn't realize that was what was going on until later when I started healing. But like, this was all stuff that was happening. I can look back now and I'm like, oh my gosh, the signs were all there. And there were symptoms I didn't even know I was dealing with. So I was overheated all the time. And I'm not talking warm. I'm talking overheated. Like my internal thermostat had been broken and was stuck on high. I was hypervigilant, startling at the smallest sounds, literally. Scanning every room I walked into, unable to fully relax, even in safe spaces. My emotions were unstable, and I was irritable in the way that really broke my heart. I didn't recognize myself. I felt disconnected from the people I loved most. Almost like there was like this glass between me and everyone else, and like we just couldn't get through it, right? And then the overstimulation, that was relentless. Too much noise, too many lights, too many smells. Like going out to eat was, forget it, not even an option because it was just too stimulating. And that's when I would go into shutdowns, which I later would find were panic attacks. Like it was a whole thing. I was perpetually overwhelmed and overstimulated. And so I went from this woman who never went to the doctor. I just didn't think I needed to. I was fine, right? To living at the doctor's office, like constantly in the doctor's office. I was desperate. I was convinced that there had to be some kind of a disease that I had randomly come down with that would explain all of this onset of symptoms. So I did test after test and diet after diet and protocol after protocol. And here's what happened. And I have a feeling some of you will relate to this. When one thing didn't work, they didn't remove that thing. They just stacked another thing and another thing on top of it. and another, more supplements, more restrictions, more appointments, more money, more hope, followed by more disappointment over and over and over again. So I was spending a fortune chasing solutions to a problem that honestly, they couldn't even tell me what it was. So what are you actually treating, right? They were throwing things at my symptoms and I was paying for it in every sense of the word. So this went on for like over a decade. And eventually I let go. I said, okay, fine. This is my lot in life. This is what's going to be my life. And I'm just going to have to trust that God is going to use it and he's going to use me. And this is where he wants me. This is my thorn. This is how it's going to go. Right. So, I mean, I had to go there, right? Because nothing I was doing was fixing it. So that must mean I need to stay here. And this is what God has for me. So, but then God showed up and did something a little different. I think he wanted me to surrender in that moment and stop chasing something that was not what he had for me, right? And so in that moment of finally surrendering, that God showed up in a different way. And he began to show me what the root of what was happening was. It was not a disease, actually. Yay! I hadn't randomly acquired some sort of like rare something or other, but something that had been building in my body for years was finally manifesting, and that something was chronic fight or flight or sympathetic dominance, which is autonomic nervous system dysregulation. So my body had been running in emergency mode for so long, like most of my life, that it had lost the ability to regulate itself and to rebalance and to do the things it needed to do. And so it was expressing that dysregulation through every system in my body. And we've talked about that in previous videos. But so if you want to go back and watch them on the gut-brain axis and things like that. So this brings me back to where we started. Let's go back. So remember the ice cream for breakfast? Oh yeah, I remember it. It's not a license to do it, but oh, I remember it. The late nights, the clutter, the pushing myself past my limits, the spending, all those things. What I didn't realize was that all of those things individually and collectively were actually impacting my nervous system and my gut-brain axis on a deep, deep level. They were quietly keeping my body in a state of low-grade stress, and that low-grade stress sustained over years and years. That was the soil where all of those symptoms began to grow. And so your gut and your brain are in constant communication. What you eat affects your neurotransmitters. How you sleep affects your cortisol. Whether you move your body or stay sedentary affects how your nervous system can help regulate itself. Clutter and chaos in your environment, they signal threat to your nervous system. And financial stress, that's one of the most chronic low-grade stressors a person can carry. And I was like, all the things, right? I wasn't just making lifestyle choices. I was actually shaping my biology, but I didn't know that was even a thing, right? So fast forward, over the last 6 years, I've been healing. I've been restoring balance to my body. I've been learning and growing and really understanding all of this stuff on my own healing journey. And I've worked with hundreds of women in my community, and I've discovered that their stories sound just like mine. And I did not expect that, if I'm being honest. I thought I was alone in the world with this. But their stories sounded just like mine. They're different details, of course, but the same root. We were never taught about the deeper implications of how we live. Nobody connected these dots for us. And in all of that time, I've identified, like working with the women, all that time I've been working with those women, I've identified 4 main roots to sickness: sin, suffering, stress, and poor stewardship, the 4 S's. And we're going to get into some of these down the road, but today we're going to talk about stewardship. But what I found was that everything seems to fall into one of these categories somehow. But today, like I said, we're going to talk about stewardship because it's one of the most overlooked, and it's also the area where we have the most agency. And when I say overlooked, I mean that overlooked in the sense of just how deeply it impacts us. Like of course we're told to exercise and eat, right? But I don't know, for me, that was always weight and fitness. It was never about like deep biological transformation, right? So that's what I mean by overlooked. So but it's also the area where we have the most agency, the most control, the most ability to manage, because sometimes stress we can't manage. It comes on, like it comes at us, or suffering or things, right? But stewardship, that's actually a task that we do. So that's really exciting. So maybe you've heard the term stewardship, maybe you haven't. So most of the time when I used to hear it and when I ask people what they think it is, they think of it in the context of money. And yes, it does include that, but it goes much further. In its simplest form, stewardship is how we manage what we have. Time, money, relationships, our minds, our bodies, the earth, all of it. So it's how we manage and how that impacts our life down the road, right? But as Christians, stewardship has an even deeper layer. So because everything we manage, as a Christian, everything we manage belongs to someone else. So let's look at it. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. Psalm 24:1, right? So if that verse is true, and I believe that it is, then everything I was managing so carelessly wasn't really mine to be careless with. We see this principle woven throughout Scripture from the very beginning. In Genesis 1:26 through 28, it says, God made mankind to rule over the earth, to fill it and subdue it. In Genesis 2:15, God put Adam in the garden to work it and to take care of it. From day one of man being created, the blueprint was management and care on behalf of the owner. And the owner is God. So in the New Testament, we even see where Jesus tells the parable of the talents. It's Matthew 25. A master entrusts his servants with resources while he's away, and when he returns, he evaluates, like how well they managed what they were given. The ones who stewarded well were rewarded, and the one who buried his talent out of fear, he didn't waste it, but he just failed to invest it well. He lost what he had. And that parable used to, I was like, oh, I know, but at least he didn't waste it, right? So, but the reality is, I was actually the one that was, I was even wasting it. I didn't just bury it. I was wasting it. So, I was spending things down carelessly because I didn't understand their value, right? And then there's this passage in Colossians that I want to just sit with for a moment. Excuse me. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart. Let me get a drink. Stumbling through because I needed a drink. Work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. That's Colossians 3:23 and 24. So 3 things jump out at me in these 2 verses. The first, motive. Whatever we do it as unto the Lord. Not for approval, not for outcomes, not because we have it together, not because we're under compulsion to do it, but because we recognize who we're actually serving and the fact that it's all His anyway. Second is the scope. Whatever you do, not just the spiritual things, not just Sunday, not just the parts of your life that feel sacred and, whatever. Everything you do, your meal choices, your sleep habits, your finances, your environment, all of it falls under that word, whatever. And the third thing is reward. There is a reward. Remember in number 1, I said we don't work for reward. There is a reward, but that's not why, right? There is a reward that comes, but notice the order. The reward comes after the right motive and after the faithful work. We don't work to earn the reward. We work for the Lord, and reward follows faithfulness. So now I want to be careful here because I know that someone is listening who's already exhausted, and the last thing they need is another standard to feel like they're falling short of. I know because I lived it. I felt like a failure for a long, long time. So let me be very, very clear here. God is not looking for perfection. He's looking for faithfulness. even in the smallest of things, that's stewardship, right? He's not grading us on our performance. He's not inviting us to, like, he's not inviting us. What's the word? He's not like demanding of us to all be the same and perform at this like high level, right? He's inviting us into a partnership to do our best as unto him with what he's entrusted to us. And if all the energy we have to offer in stewardship to the Lord is sending a text to a friend, then that's stewardship to the Lord, right? So I just want to be clear on that because I get it. I have been there. So here's what I need you to understand. God does not ask us to steward well for his ego. It's not about his ego either. He's not insecure. He doesn't need us to perform for him, like I said. He asks us to steward well because he designed us. And he knows that when we steward well, when we keep our eyes fixed on him as we go along, we're at our best in every way, right? So, and most Christians have heard this in the context of money. We tithe, we give, we budget. But somehow that same principle never made it to the dinner table or the bedtime routine or the way we speak to ourselves in our own heads or whatever, right? And I'll tell you something a little humbling. I was really terrible with money. That was one of my major blind spots. Like, I wanted to be good with money, but like, I just was not so good with it. But I was a faithful servant, right? So I did something faithfully. I showed up for people. I gave my time, my energy, my presence. But that measure, like by that measure, I really felt like I was doing something right. But somehow that faithfulness to others never translated into faithfulness to my own body. I was pouring out for every day around me while quietly running myself into the ground and calling it virtue, right? Calling it service, calling it like I'm doing all the right things. So like there was a disconnect, right? 1 Corinthians 6:19 through 20 says, it has something to do about this, and it says, do you know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit who's in you, whom you've received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies. So your body is a temple, not a machine to push it until it breaks, right? Which is what I used to do. Not an inconvenience to manage or a burden, right? It's a temple. It's a dwelling place for the Spirit of God. And so I just want to, okay, before I go on, I just want to be very careful. I'm not trying to add any shame here because I know many of you are dealing with health challenges that quite honestly have nothing to do with your choices. Because that was also, like, as I started making all the good choices and I still wasn't getting better, I'm like, okay, I'm making the choices. What's going on, right? So I understand that some of you are making the right choices and things are not, like, it's still not working. Your body is still a temple. And your struggle is still seen by God. And God is still present in it. Our health is not totally based on how well we steward our bodies, right? I said there were 4 roots to sickness. And not all of them are stewardship. And sometimes they overlap. And sometimes it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. It's not that you've like completely misstewarded every area of your life, but maybe there is one area of stewardship that you can do a little better in, right? So anyway, stewardship is one of those roots. And it is one of the areas where we actually, like I said, have the most control. And for many of us, myself included, it was one of the most overlooked ones because I didn't fully understand the depths of it, right? So with that foundation, let me give you something practical to do this week. Lots of talking, let's do something practical. So we're going to give you 5 things. Number 1, nutrition. I want you to just make one swap a day. Like, we're not overhauling our whole diet. I'm asking you to just do one swap. Add something nutritious, a handful of greens, a glass of water where there would have been soda maybe. Something real where there was something highly processed, just once a day. So here's why this matters beyond weight or energy, right? Which is the way I always looked at it, is what you eat directly affects your neurotransmitters. Your gut produces roughly 90% of your serotonin. And if you're feeding your gut primarily ultra-processed foods, your mood, your anxiety levels, your ability to regulate emotionally, all of it's affected. One swap a day is not just nutritious, it's nervous system care, okay? So 1 swap a day. Simple. Practice 2, movement. I want to encourage you to move 10 more minutes every day. 10 more minutes than your normal. And you can add more if you want, but look at the scope of your day. How much are you actually moving? Not exercise, movement, because some of us don't have the energy for exercise. So just add 10 minutes more to what you're currently doing. It doesn't have to be structured. A walk around the block, standing while you're on the phone, stretching in your living room, bouncing on your rebounder, whatever it might be. 10 minutes more. That's it. Movement signals safety, and your nervous system, when your body is sedentary for long periods of time, it can actually interpret that stillness as a threat. The kind of stillness that happens right before you have to run. 10 minutes of gentle movement tells your nervous system we're safe, we're here, we're okay, right? So 10 minutes. Number 3, sleep. Okay, you're not going to like me for this one, okay? So I'm just going to tell you, you're not going to like me for this one, but go to bed at the same time, get up at the same time every day, including the weekends. I know, but hear me out, okay? Because I was that girl that did not do that. Your body runs on a circadian rhythm, and it's like an internal clock that God built into your biology. And when we honor that rhythm consistently, our cortisol levels stabilize, our immune function improves, and our nervous system gets the restoration that it desperately needs. Irregular sleep is one of the fastest ways to keep your body in a low-grade state of dysregulation. Consistency here is one of the most powerful things you can do. I promise. It's worth it, okay? Because that took me a long time to get into motion, but it's worth it. Okay, number 4, sunshine. It seems so silly. It's such a small thing. But as soon as you're able to get out of the house, even before you check your phone, whatever, get 10 minutes of natural morning light. And while you're at it, stand on the ground with bare feet and do some grounding, you know? So, because this is not just like a wellness trend that's out there. Morning sunlight actually, especially when the first hour of waking, that sets that circadian clock that we were just talking about. It suppresses like that lingering melatonin that kind of keeps us sleepy and triggers a healthy cortisol response. A healthy cortisol response is really good because that gives you natural energy for your day. It affects your mood, your sleep that night even, your focus, your nervous system, and all of the things, really. And God literally built light into the first day of creation, and there's something profoundly right about anchoring your day in it, right? Like, it really makes a big difference. Okay, number 5, clean out one surface. Here's what I mean. Just one drawer, one counter, one corner, whatever. Not your whole house this week, just one surface all week. If it takes you all week to do the one surface, that's fine. As James Clear, there's an author, James Clear, he writes in his book, Atomic Habits, that we don't need, this is not a quote, this is the general gist, we don't need to overhaul our whole lives at once. It's just really a 1% change done consistently that transforms everything over time. Your environment communicates to your nervous system constantly. Clutter signals unfinished business, unresolved chaos, low-grade threat. Clearing one surface is a small act of stewardship that actually tells your brain, we're in order, we're at peace, we're cared for, we're good. God is looking for faithful stewards, not perfect robots, right? Not people who have it all figured out. Faithful stewards, people who show up, who try, who do the next right thing with what they've been given. And here's the beautiful thing about stewardship. You don't have to do it in your own strength. Philippians 4:13 says that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. That includes eating better. That includes going to bed on time. That includes clearing the clutter and stepping outside in the morning sun. That girl who ate ice cream for breakfast, who pushed past her limitations and ignored the signals her body was sending, she didn't know she was slowly running down what God had entrusted to her. She thought she was fine. We think it's not going to happen to us, right? So now I know, and now you know, and so now we can do something about it. Your body is not a burden. It might feel like it, but it's not a burden. It's a gift, and it's actually doing what it was designed to do. It's a temple, and it's worth caring for, Not because you have to earn anything, but because it belongs to a God who loves you. And he's asked you to be faithful with it. You're not crazy. You're not lazy. And you are not fine. But you are heard and you are held and you are able to heal. So if any of this resonates with you, if you've been living in that space of knowing something is wrong, but not being able to name it, I want to help you find the root. So head over to sarahmwhite.com. I will put the link in the description below and take the quiz. Why do I feel so bad when the doctor says I'm fine? At the end, you'll receive the A-Smile framework, a roadmap I've developed through the 6 years of like healing and working with others and all of those things that I've done over the last 6 years, all the research, all that kind of stuff that will show you where to start and what to focus on next. The link is in the description, like I said, and I will see you there.